You guys, in this case, I don't want to like put blame on anybody, but I just feel like the whole situation could have been avoided, but it wasn't, and some things happened for some reason. So let's get straight into the case. Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. I hope you're having a great day, not just a good day. So in today's case, we're going to be talking about the Thompson family missing. So this family was a family of four, headed by Everett Thompson. He was a 40-year-old man that had a majoring in marketing, and he was from Philadelphia. He loved football. He used to play the trombone, even especially when he was in his university days. And he was also the eldest of five siblings. And he was just a chill dude mostly. Anybody that knows him always said that he was a chill, cool dude. And he met the love of his life called Lydia while working in a steel manufacturing firm. Lydia, his wife, was 43 years old, which means she was 3 years older than Everett. And they got married in 1982, and they had two beautiful sons named Everett Jr. and Andrew. So they lived together and built a stable life for themselves. They eventually moved to Chicago from California, and then they were living in 8100 South Rhodes Avenue. So Everett always had a passion for cooking. He basically would cook every time, especially when he had a date with Lydia, when they were younger especially. And he moved to Chicago, and then he quit his job in Philadelphia and decided to open his own cooking restaurant called EAT Company Restaurant. EAT standing for Everett Arthur Thompson. That's actually a good idea if you think about it. EAT, like Eat Restaurant. Yeah. So it was a successful company, known by most of his neighbors, and everybody loved him. Like, everybody loved Everett, okay? Like, you cannot meet him and say you don't love him. Even people at his old workplace, sometimes when they come to Chicago, they first stop by at his restaurant, to just give him a, hi, I support you, I'm rooting for you kind of feeling. And that was basically how his life was going for a while. Not too long after moving to Chicago, the neighbors noticed a new resident in the household called Kenneth White. Lydia's maiden name is Lydia White, so obviously meaning Lydia's brother. And Kenneth White was just released from prison for serving time for aggravated sexual assault. And, I'm thinking that, like, if you know that your brother just came back from prison for a reason, obviously, why would you allow him inside the house with your 8-year-old and 11-year-old son? But it's different. I mean, people change after prison, yes, and yes, people do change. I'm not trying to say he can't change. And some people are also accused falsely. They might have not actually done the crime and they end up serving the time. Yeah, so fine and good. But from the story I'm going to tell you onwards, it's going to be very obvious that he served that time because he actually did it. So which is why it's not making sense to me how she let him live in the house with her two children. So the Thompsons inherited the household actually from Lydia's father. And Lydia's father left the house for 3 of his children, so meaning Kenneth owned 1/3 of the building. And I understand, like, yeah, she can't leave a whole house, blah, 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 but your children are there. Either you live with your family or Kenneth leaves, and most likely it's not going to be Kenneth because it's obviously just came back from prison and he needs to find his feet back. So it would have been better if she had moved out, but we don't know how the story goes. We don't know what exactly transpired or what happened, why he went to jail, or if he was even, yeah, fine, I've already said that in the past. So I don't want to like make it seem like, oh, I'm blaming this, I'm blaming that, because everything could just happen in the moment. And when from the outside it just seems like, oh, why did she just do it this way? It could be you, it could be anybody. Haven't you ever done some things too, and then you're like, oh my gosh, why did I even think that? Oh my gosh, why did I even do that? It could just be anything, and you are never expecting the worst when you're thinking about life. You're just doing every day as it goes by. After some weeks of Kenneth moving into the household, things got violent pretty quickly. Lydia calls 911 on the 3rd of July 1996, and Kenneth is chasing her family around and also including her with an axe in the household. But before the police came, the whole matter had died down. There was no longer a threatening. He had begged Lydia. So, there was now like an apology in the way. So when the police came, it was just seen as, okay, we just got into a fight and it's not that much of a big deal. The police came into and still inspected the home and just went out. It was just seen as like family fight. 2 days later, on July 5th of 1966, Hernan Thompson, he is a politician and the father to Everett Johnson. So meaning he is the in-law to Lydia and the grandfather to the two children. He calls in at the restaurant trying to talk to his son, asking how everything is at home and also asking if Kenneth had improved his behavior. And speaking of the devil, guess who called? Lydia called to complain about Kenneth. And she tells Everett that Kenneth again is chasing her around with an axe. So he just tells his dad like a little bit of detail that Kenneth is giving Lydia trouble. He has to rush home. He rushes home and the last person to see him was his employee. He just told the employee that, he was going to run the restaurant for the rest of the night and he decides to, go home. 2 hours later, after this call, Kenneth comes by the restaurant and he talks to the manager that Everett was involved in a car accident and that's why he's not going to be making it back tonight or tomorrow. And the manager is kind of confused because he's like, okay, very weird. I mean, no problem. He didn't really think that much of it. But immediately Kenneth leaves, he calls the police. And the reason why he called the police was because when he saw Kenneth had red smears beside his shoes, white Nikes. So it was very obvious. And he asked for info on the accident that they said that Everett was involved in. And there was no information about that particular night. So he was confused as to why he would come and lie. But the thought of, that happening, I know you might be thinking about he saw red smears on his shoes. No, sometimes there are some things that are just so unbelievable to believe that you're not going to click or put everything at once together. No one had seen the Thompson eventually after a week, and now everybody starts becoming worried. Everett's father doesn't even tell the police or tell anyone that Everett is missing at this point because he just thought that it was a normal situation whereby he just went home to solve another Kenneth problem again. So over the days, he didn't think anything would happen. He just thought that, okay, Everett just went home, solved it, and, he will call his son back in a week or so. Now it's a week and no one has found or heard or seen the Thompson. Not even one of them. So on July 17th in 1996, 12 days after Mr. Thompson had spoken to his son, he decides to file a missing persons report. And then the police went to their apartment, the Thompson apartment, and saw no one there except Kenneth. They asked Kenneth where the Thompsons are, and he says that they made a trip to Philadelphia to visit Everett's father. So the police actually believes him, weirdly enough. How freaking weird is that? So when they entered, they just did a search again and they didn't bother to, look thoroughly. So they went in, they came out and it wasn't that much of a huge deal. And it's just so crazy to me how they believed him. Like, this is an ex-convict. This is someone, a household that has called the police before saying that this particular man had threatened them with an axe, and you just believed him and you walked out of there. It's just so crazy to me. Over the day, the neighbors started asking where the Thompsons were, and at this point he was just changing his story. He would say Miami today, tomorrow he would say Philadelphia, tomorrow he would say, he was just changing his story up and down. So now his lie was not even in one straight line anymore. It was just all about the place and very wobbly. Some days after, he was found driving the Thompson family van and he was arrested because he was caught signing a fake check in the name of Lydia White, which is his sister. And she had not been seen for over a week now. So how did she sign this check? So in late July of 1996, Everett's parents got tired, and they decided to drive down to Philadelphia themselves, since they felt like the police was not doing their job or doing enough, and they decided to do their own investigations themselves, asking neighbors, the restaurants where Everett worked in, school of the children, like what exactly, asking the school that the children went to if the parents called to say that there was going to be a day that they were not going to come to school, and the teacher said no, so everything was just getting boiling down to that something happened to them and there was no freaking trip. So with all the information that they had gathered, they took the information to the police, and the police also found it very weird that this was happening. They put two and two together, like, I mean, duh, why you did not do your job, so now someone helped you do it, so you better like find out what happened, like what's happening. So Kenneth had already sold the van to a salvage yard, and they had already even compacted the car, so they couldn't even take the car for any type of investigation or anything. It was just, he just basically ruined everything, and he was saying that he was also in a contract about to sell the house. That's the house that Mr. White, before he died, gave his three children that Kenneth owned 1/3 of. So the house was already in the process of being reconstructed by the new people that were going to come in. By the time the police entered there to do some little investigations and also talk to Kenneth a little bit, because they had no evidence against him, they saw that the hot tub had some red smears, some of the walls were broken down, the people were getting ready to come in or move in, or to start their reconstruction rather. So the police knew that this house was not in this condition, because when they came to check on the house during the time that Lydia called that she had an axe being wielded at her, they entered to do some inspection and they did not see all of this there. So they knew that something was off. Because why are you selling the house suddenly when you have people that are missing? So police was uncovering this new information, and they were also getting more info about Kenneth, and he had been put in prison also in the past due to robbery, rape, and kidnapping. This just makes everything even worse, because now he's like a main suspect. Like, he obviously was the main suspect, but they weren't too sure, but now they're like, yeah, I think this guy did whatever he did. So the police arrested Kenneth, they investigated him, but there was not enough information to keep him in prison, so they had to release him. I know, very sad and annoying when someone doesn't have enough info. Ugh. Kenneth moved out of the inner city and moved to Gary, Illinois, which is approximately 25 miles away, but police kept him on their radar and was still watching him. On the 14th of July 1997, the police did a search in his home in Gary, Illinois, and they found gym shoes, a man's gym shoes, and a little boy's pair of socks covered in blood. The police took these and tested them for human blood, and they were in fact human blood. But this was not enough information or evidence that he did anything, so he was not jailed. But the police didn't have to wait long, because in November of 1997, Kenneth was arrested again because he did not sign a sex offenders list. He forgot to put his name. I mean, according to what he said he forgot. He forgot to register as a sex offender for that particular year. So he went to jail for a while. He was released again in December of 1997. And not even up to some days after, he was arrested again in that same December of 1997 for forging Lydia's name on a $13,272 check when she had not been seen for over a year. So this just makes everything even more creepy. Like, we know Lydia has not been seen for over a year, and you are the #1 suspect, and you are still using her name. Like, they just didn't have anything to pin on this guy. That was the most annoying part about everything. So, he had to go to court and defend against the case. And a surprise move for his court charge, the prosecuting attorney, Jacqueline Ross, just came out and said that he was the one that murdered his family with an axe, and he kept their body where nobody even knows. And everybody was wondering, like, This is a case about fraud and about him signing the name of someone that is not around or is considered missing. How did this go to him being accused of murder? You know, like in court, it was like from here, you know, everybody was relaxed and everybody just went to like here, like, whoa, what the hell is going on? And Jacqueline Ross basically explained a situation or ideal in which everything makes sense actually on how Kenneth did this. He said Kenneth got to know about the inheritance during his time in prison. And obviously, that was when his father died. His father died while he was in prison, also meaning Lydia's father. So when he came out, he was expecting that the house would be for just him and him alone. But when he got to the house or got to the environment, he saw that he had to live in the house with his sister and her family. He was basically probably thinking that he went to prison, so he deserves the house because he doesn't have a job, you know. Pity, pity, Kenneth. And in this while, he got so angry, he was filling himself up with lots of hate and resentment for the family every day. And he was filled up with so much rage in the sense that he now murdered his sister's family and probably put them off somewhere, dumped their bodies somewhere where nobody till today has known where it is. And before the police and investigators and a lot of people could even sort out answers, on December 25th of 1997, Kenneth was found hanging from a bedsheet in his jail cell at the Metropolitan Correctional Center after detailing his upcoming charges for the murder case. So, which means that he most likely was the one that did that. And considering the fact that he had been in and out of jail, he would do things knowing that, okay, when he goes in, he's going to come out, you know, like fraud and whatever. But knowing that he was going to go and face a murder charge, he knew that he did it and he was not going to come out of it. So he just resorted to committing suicide to escape from it. The police searched for clues for any connections towards the Thompson family, but he left nothing. No notes, no nothing. The police searched and they found nothing. So which means that he took the answers with him to the grave. What is selfish, selfish, selfish bastard. I'm not even joking. Like, I don't even know if I'm allowed to even cuss on here. Like, I am so freaking angry. Like, you have no idea. On June 1998, Kenneth's old home and land was searched for bodies, but nothing was found still. I 100% think that they were murdered by Kenneth, and the case is still unsolved till now because there was literally no bodies found and no proof against Kenneth that he did anything to the Thompson family. So this beautiful family has been missing since July 5th of 1996. And I don't know if the case is still open. I highly doubt it is, but they haven't been found since July 5th of 1996. And the details of them include 40-year-old Everett Thompson. He had black hair, a mustache, 6 feet, and he was 250 pounds. Then his wife, Lydia Thompson, was 43 years old, 5'8", 135 pounds. She had a large vaccination scar on her upper arm, brown hair, and brown eyes. 11-year-old Everett Thompson Jr. and younger brother Andrew Thompson had black hair and brown eyes. If there's any information that has been seen about them or that you know or that could help to contact or find their dead bodies, just contact the Chicago police station if any updates. 312-433-7007. Thank you guys for listening to the end, and I hope to see you in my next video. Don't forget to like and subscribe.